This is the weekly Firecast, Episode 2, Interview with Jim Duffy.
Strap yourselves in. It's time for the weekly Firecast. This is the podcast for all foodies, those who love food that is cooked over a fire or feels like fire in your mouth. If you love spice, smoke, sauce, and all things savory, this is the show for you. And now, here's your host, chili head and barbecuer, Scott Roberts.
Hey, here we are with episode number 2 of the weekly Firecast. I want to give a huge thanks to all of you who downloaded and listened to the first installment, and we're going to go full force into the second one right after a few housekeeping notes. First of all, I want to urge everyone to give me feedback, both positive and negative, as long as it's constructive, of course. Any suggestions, any ideas for shows and subject matters and product reviews and interviews, I want to hear from you. So contact me via email at scott@scottrobertsweb.com. Tell me what you think. If you love the show, if you think it needs improvement in this area, that area, I want to hear from you. And of course, if you didn't know, I also want to mention that the Weekly Firecast is a proud member of the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network. So if you haven't heard the whole stable of podcasts that they have over there, I urge you right now to go to the number 2guystalking.com and see what they have to offer. First off, there's the Fang-Banger Podcast, which focuses on all things with fangs. It's personally not my cup of tea. However, if you love the hit HBO show True Blood, of which they're given an episode-by-episode recount, and by the time you're listening to this, maybe wrapping up its 5th season, then that's something you'll want to definitely sink your teeth into. Nice pun, Scott. Anyway, you can listen to the Fang-Banger Podcast by simply going to fangbangerpodcast.com. Also on the Two Guys Talking Network, if you happen to like the game of poker, then you'll dig the Two Guys Talking Poker Podcast. They talk about upcoming tournaments, poker hand strategy, plus interviews with industry players. You can listen or subscribe at twoguystalkingpoker.com. And there's a plethora of other podcasts also available on the Two Guys Talking site. If you're into fishing, there's the Doc Talk podcast. If you're a fan of science fiction and Star Wars, there's the Galaxy Cast. And there's even a geek podcast from the perspective of African Americans called the Black Tribbles podcast. And there's much, much more. And last but not least, I want to mention the podcast I'm involved with, which is the Dexstar Podcast from twoguystalking.com. And of course, that is the Dexter Show, which is set to premiere in just a few weeks on Showtime. Now, I co-host that with superhost Mike Wilkerson, and we go episode by episode as the season goes along. So if you're into Dexter, like I am heavily, that's something you'll definitely want to listen to. And again, you can find that at twoguystalking.com. For all the chili heads out there, as you may or may not know, we are in the heart of festival season. This late summer, early fall time of year is the best time and the busiest time for hot sauce shows and chili pepper festivals everywhere. We just got done with the Austin Hot Sauce Festival. Just about every weekend for the next several weeks, there's going to be something coming up, and if it's in your geographic area, it's worth a drive to see all this kind of stuff. There's way too much stuff to mention. So to see a comprehensive listing of everything that's going on, be sure to go to scottrobertsweb.com/calendar and check out if something is in your geographic area, and well worth it if you're into fiery foods. Again, you can find that at scottrobertsweb.com/calendar, or you can just click the link in the show notes.
And now, the Fire Talkers interview.
And let's get to the interview. I'm going to go ahead and skip the review this time because there's a long, lengthy interview. I don't want this show to run too long. Person I'm going to talk to is chili pepper grower Jim Duffy. And if you know him, he's been very instrumental in the past couple years as far as the growth of super hots and the proliferation of seeds and plants. He is definitely opinionated and controversial, but he backs up what he says with facts. So anyway, I hope all of you enjoy this interview with chili pepper grower Jim Duffy. Okay, joining me tonight is Jim Duffy of RefiningFireChilies.com. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing pretty good.
Of course, Jim is a grower of chili peppers, and without chili peppers, we wouldn't have the whole fiery foods industry at all. Now, I just want to mention one thing before I start with the questions tonight. Probably more than any other question I've gotten this year, people daily will ask me, hey, Scott, where could I find chili pepper seeds? Where can I buy chili pepper plants? And Jim and refiningfirechilies.com is one of the first sources that I refer people to. Anyway, I just wanted to ask you, Jim, just tell us a little bit about your company.
Refining Fire Chilies kind of got its start unofficially in about 2004, 2005, and I expanded my salsa garden to grow a little extra peppers and sell my own salsa at farmers markets to help me raise money to do meals for kids at youth centers called Youth Venture. And I was cooking meals about 2 times a week and doing 2 or 3 centers almost every week of the year. And so I had to grow a bigger salsa garden, and so I went hydroponic to 100 and something plants, and plus some in the ground. And around 2007, a restaurant in Chicago contacted me because they saw me selling my extra chilies on the web through Craigslist ads or whatever, and asked me if they could buy more than what I had there. And I said, sure, what do you want? And they said, as many as you can give us. So I went out with a flashlight that night and picked every chili I could pick, and had about $1,000 chili pepper sale that night, and then the next year tripled my garden. So and that's kind of went from there. And then the seeds and plants came along around 2009, 2010. People would buy some of the chilies or my salsa would go, do you sell seeds? I'd say no. Do you sell plants? I'd say no. 2009, 2010 is when I started integrating seeds in my web stores and plants sold locally, and then later on the internet. That's how it kind of all came together. It was the kids at the youth centers that were the driving force to get me to do this.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Now, were you a chili head yourself? I mean, did you just, I don't know, just grow a few chili plants as a hobby? I mean, what initially got you into this before you actually got into it?
Well, I work at a company called, I'm still there, it's my day job, called Solar Turbines Incorporated. They build big giant gas turbine engines. We're a subsidiary of Caterpillar, and I'm a welder there. And I was working with a few other welders and mechanics, that's the guys who put our parts together. And quite a few of them are Mexican, because where I live is only about 25 minutes from the border. And they would always bring in their hot sauces from their favorite taco shops, or from they made, or what their wives made. So I got turned on to quite a bit of different hot sauces and salsas, homemade. So I started, I like to cook, so I started making some of my own. And habaneros were so expensive at that time. They were about $8, $9 a pound in the Mexican grocery store. I didn't even see them in the regular grocery store. And this is around 2003, 2004. So I decided, well, I better grow some of my own because I'm not paying $9 a pound. I started mixing different peppers together to make salsas. A couple of these Mexican gentlemen one day said, hey, if you make more of that batch, I'll buy it from you. And that was it. That's all they had to say was, I'll buy it from you. So I made my garden bigger and started selling little tubs of salsa at my work and at my church and to friends in my neighborhood. But they are the ones who converted me into a chili head, working there all those years, eating their homemade sauces.
And then here you are with Refining Fire Chilies. Now, here in 2012, what are like the full range of products and services that you provide?
Well, I sell the chili seeds. I always try to look for the world's hottest, but also the rarest. And now I'm starting to sell some of sweeter, milder peppers that are a little more rare, but very flavorful. So I'll go for the flavor. I don't sell your like regular jalapenos or regular ones you can find anywhere. I try to find that with heart. Then I sell the plants. I sell the plants wholesale and retail. Now I wholesale to nurseries across the country, only a few for now, and also a few locally. And then I retail sales, which have customers usually come Saturday mornings, and the rest I ship out. And then I also sell the dried peppers, probably about 7 or 8 varieties of the super hots. No food products other than the dried peppers is pretty much it. So it's seeds, plants, and fresh chilies and dried chilies. And the fresh chilies, I normally don't sell too much to the general public because I try to grow a lot, and I try to grow for what my customers ask for. If I have a little bit left over here and there, I'll contact people in the general public that email me and sell them a pound here, a pound there. but mainly I cater to the people who want more than a few pounds.
So I guess all throughout the year, if somebody, I guess, let's just say Massachusetts, wanted to buy a fresh chili pepper plant from you in January, would it be pretty unlikely that they would be able to do that?
Yeah, my plant seed sales and dried pepper sales are all year long because dried peppers don't spoil. I mean, I'm sure they lose flavor after a while, but I usually sell out by the end of the year. And seeds can keep pretty good quality for if you keep them in a cool, dry place, 3 to 5 years, I would say. So that's all year long. Plant sales, I generally take orders first week of April, and I shut down last week of July. I've got a handful of plants right now for local walk-up customers. It's pretty much the end of the season. Unless someone's growing year-round in a greenhouse, no one's looking to start a garden now. It's a little bit late for the majority of the country. So plant sales go from April to end of July. And fresh chilies, it depends on the variety. Some varieties I have ready by the end of August, and others mid-September, beginning of October, because they take longer, like the super hots. And so I'll usually sell chilies, let's say, end of August through November, but I'm working on contracting out to a few greenhouses, and I tried that last year, but we failed with the one greenhouse we used. They weren't experienced, so I'm working on trying to get a greenhouse contract going now. That way I can have chilies all year round, because I have clients that would buy them all year round, so I'm working on that. Right now I don't know for sure, but I'm hoping within the next 4 to 6 weeks I will have a greenhouse grower to help me out.
Since I kind of mentioned, people inquiring me, where to buy the seeds and all that kind of stuff, what advice would you give to the beginners out there who want to start growing chilies in their own garden? Where do they start? Should they go ahead and just start, just with the seeds? And how could they guarantee that they have, the pure seeds and not hybrids and just having it come out wrong for them?
Well, as far as purity goes, when I get a new variety, I grow it out the first year to see if it's going to come out to what it is. And if every seed from that source grows out to be what it is from that person, then, and I get enough seed that year, the next season I will sell that seed. If not, whatever plants did come out pure, I'll save and keep alive and then grow out. And if they all come out pure the second year, I've got what I want. Now, once I have what I want, I have to grow out for seed almost every year. So there's two things I do. One, I grow on a remote property, and that's when I have a large amount of plants, like, say, a couple of hundred of one variety, like, say, Moruga Scorpion. When I'm growing varieties that I don't need that many seeds, in other words, 10, 20,000 seeds is enough, I'll take a couple of dozen plants and I'll put them underneath mosquito netting to keep the bees from flying from one flower over to the next flower. I don't get much bees here in Southern California. I never even see them in my yard, but it's a precaution I got to take.
Yeah.
They're not vacuum sealed, so I guess a bee could crawl underneath and go up and inside, but I've never seen it happen because I see the big honeybees here, not the ones that are in the clover flowers like you'd see on the East Coast, or the Midwest. So I don't have issues with cross-pollination, to my knowledge. Nothing is guaranteed, Scott, 100%. Nothing. There's food safety laws and people who produce food products in factories. Even though there's food safety laws, the FDA says you can have a certain amount of rodent hair, a certain amount of dirt, a certain amount of contamination in any food product because nothing is 100%. So I try to do the best I can to avoid cross-pollination. It's better than not doing it at all and then a gardener growing something and getting something mixed or getting the wrong variety. Mistakes will happen. I can always ship the wrong package of seeds by accident, mislabel the package of seeds, and the people I hire to package the seeds could package up something wrong. So mistakes can happen. Nothing is 100%, but I try to have quality control so that doesn't happen. Now, once I have the seed, I ship them to a customer. I send them a germination sheet, a grow sheet. That's a full page of instructions with hints and tips and ways to germinate the seed. Super hot pepper seeds are extremely difficult to grow. You get a little bit too much moisture or not enough moisture or not enough heat, they don't come up. It takes practice, and anybody can fail even if they've done it for a while. So some people should probably never try seeds, but they want to try because it's always a challenge to try to grow something. That's why people buy exotic fruit tree seeds and other stuff. The rate on those kind of plants is even harder to grow, but they want to try. They want the challenge to see if they can do it and get a tree in their backyard or a bush or whatever. So I offer that, and I give you growing instructions, and I'm available pretty much. Very, very available. My customers know they can call me. They will get me on the phone usually within 24 hours, and I will talk with them and do whatever I can to help them. I'm not a horticulturist, and I'm not a botanist. So if somebody calls me up and says they got some funny spots on leaves, I could guess at it, but I usually tell them put the leaf in a plastic bag and take it to a horticulturist nursery place. Take it to some place where someone's got a degree and knows all the diseases and all the signs of plants, because it's plant science. I'm not a plant scientist. I'm a chili grower.
Mm-hmm.
For the people who can't grow by seed, plants are probably the next best bet. However, I still give a grow sheet, full page, with growing your plants.
Yeah.
Because people do need direction. But people will still kill plants, because I'm sure you have friends that have house plants and have killed them over and over again. And house plant is pretty hard to kill, but people kill them anyway.
That's happened to me before. Many years ago.
Right. But I give a full sheet of instructions with seeds. I give a full sheet of instructions with plants, and I make myself available to the customer to walk them through it and talk them, and answer their questions and do the best that's all I can do, is make myself available by talking to them, and it's more than a lot of other people do. A lot of my competitors don't even have a phone number on their website. You never can reach them. They take days to answer an email. If I'm not out of town, I usually will get back to a customer within 24 hours, especially if they give me a phone number. Much better than emailing. Much, much better.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing I want to tell you. Customers ask me sometimes. They go, well, how do you think this pepper will grow in Oklahoma City? And I tell them, I don't know. And I always get questions like that, and I go, I don't know. They go, what do you mean you don't know? I go, well, I live in San Diego. I don't live in Oklahoma City. So I really can't answer that question.
Do you have any general guidelines? What works the majority of the time? Like particular types of soil, fertilizer, like a minimum amount of sunlight, and how much should you water? I mean, what would I guess just a few basic tips that would work most places in the U.S. What would you tell them?
I tell people grow in pots. 5-gallon minimum size. You grow in a pot, you get a major hailstorm or major storm, you can move the plant out of danger. You have a heat wave of 10 days of 150 degree temperatures, you can move the plant into the shade. If you get insect issues, you can spray the most toxic poison in the world on the ground without touching the plant and kill the majority of insects like ants or other insects that are going to try to come up and bring bugs up to your plant, because ants will bring aphids up to the plant. So you can spray it on the ground.
Yeah.
Also, when you have it in pots, if your season starts getting colder earlier, you can bring them inside the garage, put them underneath a cheap plant light, and keep the plant going for another month or two, or alive through the winter. I tell people, when you put some potting soil in a pot, get a good, well-drained soil mixture. Usually, the two mixes that I prefer are Sunshine Growers by SunGrow or Pro Mix by Premier Horticulture. There's also other ones like Dr. Earth, more expensive ones like Happy Frog or Ocean Forest Mix, and all those are good mixes. How I pot up a plant, recently I've changed things up. I add 1 cup of worm castings to each 5-gallon pot, because worm castings build immunity in a plant.
Mm-hmm.
They give the plant good immunity. And then I'll add a root stimulant or root fungi called mycorrhizae. There's a company called Sprinkler Warehouse out of Houston, Texas. They have this soil fertility booster. You only use a pinch. It's designed for injector systems that shoot nutrients out all through a sprinkler system to everywhere, like on a farm or something. But I find I just take a pinch of that and I mix that in with the worm castings and the soil like I'm tossing a salad. Then I'll wet the pot, make a hole with my hand, break the roots apart on the baby plant so the roots can spread around. You break them apart. I'm not scared of damaging them. And then before I put the plant in the hole, I'll use a time-release nutrient called Osmocote. 14-14-14 is the chemical ratio. I'll put about a teaspoon in the hole so the roots will always be in contact with a little bit of feeding. It's not the greatest nutrient in the world, but it is time-release. It won't burn the roots, and the roots will grow right around it. And then I pot it up. Then I pack the soil around the plant. I might feed a liquid root stimulant formula, a B3 formula, to stimulate the roots to get them quick start. And then I usually don't feed for a few weeks after that. Now, the formula I use now for feeding on everything is a formula called C-Grow. It's got C nutrients, it's got blood meal, yucca extract, It's got all the ingredients of an expensive formula, and it's about $16 and change for 5 pounds at that company Sprinkler Warehouse. And it's 5 pounds for 16 and change. You use a tablespoon per gallon. It's great stuff. I've got plants marugas that went from about 8 inches to about 3 feet tall in about a month and a half. It's great. The other thing I use is a calcium magnesium supplement, which you can spray on the leaves mixing with water in the evening, or you can mix into water and pour into the plant, because pepper plants like calcium. And I also get that very cheap from Sprinkler Warehouse. The Sprinkler Warehouse company has a lot of irrigation and sprinkler supplies, but they've got good prices on nutrients. And I've been using them now for about 3 years. They've got humic acid supplements, all kinds of stuff. I like them. Their shipping is fast. I can pretty much get everything I need from them, except for the worm castings. I buy that local at a nursery. So that's how I pot up my plants. And if I were to show you a picture of these marugas I got now, which were late plantings, because I already had my field of them already growing, things are growing like weeds, and I've only fed them once to seed grow, and that's it. So that's how I pot up a plant. That's in a 5-gallon. If I go to a 15-gallon, which is like a small trash can, I'd go a couple cups of worm castings, a little bit more of that nutrient. There's also a good nutrient out there called Grow Power, and it's a humic acid granular. Looks like black charcoal powder, kind of. I don't know if it's available in all 50 states, but it's called Grow Power, and it's kind of a mild fertilizer with humic acid. I'll mix in about a tablespoon of that into the pot, too, when I set it up. But if you can't find that, you can always buy liquid humic acid at a nursery or a hydroponic store and just pour it into the plant when you transplant. You only use humic acid once a month. And to not bore you with science, humic acid creates a friendly environment for the living soil bacteria, which makes you have healthy roots and a healthy immune system, which you also get from worm castings and other roots. So it's the foundation. You get a good foundation, Scott, on a house. When the wind blows, the house stays up. You get a good foundation when you transplant a plant. It'll start quicker and grow quicker in the beginning, and you'll have a healthier plant for the season. So it's all about setting the foundation up. And what I just told you is how I set up my seed plants, which are my most valuable commodity. Without seed plants, there is no future. I have to have a future, which means I got to grow seed every year.
Well, excellent advice there. That's exactly, I think, what a lot of people are looking for out there. And, of course, the whole foundation analogy, top-notch there. I want to ask you, kind of getting back into seed purity, I know it's probably going to make you sound like that you're against your competition because, it is a business that you're in. But what do you think of sellers and traders out there as far as the ones in forums, on eBay, other online shops? Can they be trusted for purity? Do you suggest that people do trade seeds or purchase from, just anyone out there?
Well, if you're a hobby garden grower and you don't care what happens, go ahead and trade for seeds. Trading seeds is free. And if it grows out to something weird because something's crossed with something and you think that's fun, then that's great. I wouldn't trade seeds with people unless I knew that they had them isolated or protected from crossing with another plant. Because I'm running a business. Now, I'm different than a hobbyist. I'm running a business, so I don't want to waste a whole year growing some seeds into plants and then the fruit I get on them is not the fruit, the variety I wanted. Mm-hmm. Now I got to wait till next year to do it all over again. So to me, that kills me. And now some people who grow these more expensive pepper varieties, the super hots, whatever you want to call them, they're going to be set up for a big disappointment if they grow something out and then at the end of the season they get a jalapeno or they get a Hungarian wax or they get a bell pepper or they get something they didn't pay for. People can always refund them their money, but that doesn't give them back their season. They've lost their season. Their season's gone. Mm-hmm. Imagine if you knew what was in your Christmas present 4 months before Christmas, and then you opened it up and it was an empty box, and your dad told you, well, I'll give you the money to buy something for next Christmas. Well, that's kind of the way it feels. And I've been ripped off by buying plants on eBay. I've been ripped off by buying seeds from various seed sellers. I will not mention them because if I do, then people are just going to say I'm bashing them to make more money for myself. So I'm not going to mention them. But I have been taken. A lot of people have been taken. And I'm going to tell you how people take people on eBay and Amazon. eBay and Amazon have, I think, 90-day refund policy.
Yeah.
So it takes a few months to grow out seeds or plants. The people who sell these know that. So by the time you grow out and then you go to try to file a thing for a refund, it's too late. So they know that. So they'll sell anything. And I know very few people had Moruga seeds in their possession, And then all of a sudden, when Moruga got the scientific record, tons of people on eBay and Amazon all of a sudden had them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they got them because I didn't sell quantity of the seed to anybody the year before, and I only knew of one or two people that was selling it at retail in the world. Where did they get all this Moruga seed? It probably wasn't. They probably got other stuff and then sold it as Moruga and made money and ripped people off. It happens all the time. It's buyer beware. But a lot of seed sellers grow in their yard or even on their land. They got a good piece of land. They might even have a small farm, and they grow everything together. Now, it is true, Scott, that peppers self-pollinate. Most flowers will pollinate themselves without the aid of a bee, and you can't get a woman pregnant twice. So once a flower's pollinated, a bee can land on it. It won't affect it, even if it came from another plant, because you can't get a woman pregnant twice. It can be hard for a lot of pepper varieties to cross. But if you have bees, you never know which flower they contaminated. You never know which pepper they contaminated. You never know which seed. And it could happen on a large scale, and you never know. And I know people who sold seeds and played the game with having everything grow together, didn't have any issues, maybe even for a year or two. And then all of a sudden, boom, the complaints came flying in. Hey, what's this I grew? Hey, what is that this I grew? What are you selling me? And the next thing you know, a few of them even went out of business. Their reputation got torn up pretty quick. They couldn't adjust to the damage control. So the best thing for people to do is get mosquito netting, put a few plants underneath the mosquito netting, maybe 10, maybe a dozen, and at least do that. And if you've got bees all over the place, especially the ones that go on the ground cover, then you've got to cover the ground cover up with plastic. You've got to do something to make those bees not come near those plants. Your other alternative, Scott, is you grow in a greenhouse that's screened up and locked up, and you go in there and that door shuts. Like here at the San Diego Zoo, you've got these bird houses. You open a door, you go into a door, and then you open a second door, and then the birds can't fly out if they came in that door because there's a little compartment. So if you're going to grow everything together, grow in a greenhouse and keep the bees out, and then you can put everything together in there. Just keep a little spacing between the plants so a flower doesn't brush another one, which is like getting hit by lightning. It'd be hard to do anyway. But that's why a lot of the British growers, I'll trade seeds with a lot of the people from the UK, because a lot of the people in the UK don't get good sunshine, so they got to generate heat for their plants, so they grow in polytunnels or small greenhouses with plastic, and they get nice and warm in there, and they grow and they seal them up because of the cool air there. And a lot of the British growers, when I get seeds usually from a British grower, when I trade, it usually grows out true. So if you're going to trade with somebody from the UK that's got a polytunnel. You probably will most likely get a good true seed because there's no bees going in there.
Well, kind of on the same topic, since you deal with a lot of the super hots, what are your thoughts on all the, various varieties and the strains and the hybrids? Just as an amateur gardener myself, it seems like every month, there's all these new ones that are debuting. And quite frankly, it's hard for me to keep track of all these. Just different variations on the scorpions and the 7-pots and everything like that. What is actually real out there? Are there any real differences between all these?
Well, some people are growing these things and they're calling them a cross. They're saying it's a cross and it's a couple generations old, and they're being honest and upfront. So it's not a new variety, because in any given year it could bounce back to either the mother or the father plant and not be the cross that the person wants. And then there's some people that as soon as they get something crossed, they name it and say they have a new variety, and that's being unethical, and that's lying. It takes 7 generations. Now, it's 3.5 years if you're growing year-round, because you can do 2 seasons in a year. But you have to have a heated, environmentally controlled greenhouse, and it's a lot of work, because it's just a lot of work. You probably got to have lighting, depending on where you are in the United States, because when winter comes, you don't get enough sun. You're either got 3.5 years if you grow twice a year, or you got 7 years if you don't, to make a variety somewhat stable. Some people even say 9 generations. I'll just say 7. There's only a few people that have crossed varieties and kept track of it and kept working at it for 7 years. The one I know is the 7-pot Primo, and that's Troy Primo from Louisiana. He's a horticulturist with the state of Louisiana. That's his job. He's got it in its 7th or 8th generation. Other than that, all these other crosses people are making, and they're saying they've got a stable cross, and I don't believe it. They're not keeping log books. They're not doing anything. Now, when these things grow out for a few years, if they somehow stay the same, then it might be something worth buying. But I think what's happening, Scott, is everybody wants their claim to fame. They want to get their name on something. They want to be known for something. And in the chili head world, it's no different than anything else, like sports or something else. So if they mix a few varieties together and then they give it a kooky name, or they put their own name on it, now all of a sudden they've got their claim to fame. People will know them for something. And I think that's what a lot of people are after. Of course, there's some people trying to mix things together to make a new super hot. And I don't think you can make a new super hot, because if you take one super hot that's lower than the other and you put it with the other one, you're going to get the traits of that lower super hot. So it's just science. I mean, I can't. Scientific theory is one thing, but science, when you test something over and over again and get the same results, is the science, that I believe in. So a lot of these, I think, are just people's claim to fame, Scott. They want to get their name out there. They want to feel good about themselves, which is great. I mean, have fun with a hobby. Cross a bunch of stuff. See if you can get it to stay stable, My thing is, don't try selling it in the first year or two, because it's not a new variety until you've stabilized it. So if you haven't stabilized it, what are you doing selling it? But unless you're going to tell people it's a new cross and it's only, be open and honest with people. Tell people it's a new cross, it's not stable. Here, have
not to mention that I think it's really misleading, because they only show one HPLC test result, one Scoville number, and it's really high. But what they don't mention is, did they do 10 other tests? Did they show lower Scoville numbers? I mean, as you know, as most, thinking people out there know, that the Scoville ratings for any kind of chili pepper, whether it be a jalapeno, whether it be a buchalokia, will be all over the map. I mean, it just changes. It's different from plant to plant, from place to place you grow it in. So I think a lot of that is misleading, where you only see one Scoville result and it ends up being higher. And so it makes you think that that whole other hybrid is hotter in general.
Well, the hottest in the world chili claim can be the results of good science and good testing, but in the end, it's used for one purpose, and that purpose is marketing. We all know the Moruga Scorpion can hit 2 million, but will it hit 2 million all the time? No. The Butch T Scorpion hit 1,460,000. Will it hit 1,460,000 all the time? No. But people are going like, well, what scored the hottest? Oh, what scored the hottest? It's the same thrill they get if they go to a football camp. You've got that quarterback there that won the Super Bowl the year before. Whose autograph do they want? They want him, but next year he might be crap. But that one year he won the Super Bowl, so everybody wants his autograph. So you get the hottest pepper in the world, and people want to grow that pepper. I can tell them that's just, it could vary from year to year. People go like, what do you think is the hottest? They don't ask me what is the hottest pepper on record. If they say what's the hottest pepper on record, scientifically, I'll say it's the Trinidad Moruga Scorpion. If they ask me, Jim, what do you think is the hottest? I'll say it could be the Moruga Scorpion, the 7-pot Douglas, the Butch T Scorpion, or even one of the red varieties of 7-pot. Mm-hmm. On any given day, one of those, grown under the right conditions, will leapfrog and beat the other. So if they ask me what I think is the hottest, I'll say the red 7-pots, the chocolate 7-pots, red scorpions and chocolate scorpions. I just lump them all together. There's a couple different variations of each. Any given day, one might beat the other in the field growing. I could see anyone beat the other one. That's just from my experience. I've been sending peppers to labs for 3 years. I've got low ranges of 800,000. I've got high ranges of 1,400,000, 400,000 plus. And, of course, New Mexico State University grew out peppers from my seeds and got the 2 million on the Moruga and over 1,800,000 on the Douglas or chocolate 7-pot. On any given, maybe this year, if they would have grown them out together and did the whole study again, maybe the Douglas wins. Or maybe the Butch T Scorpion or Trinidad Scorpion wins. They're all friggin' hot. And I think I've seen people say that on Facebook. Who cares? They're all friggin' hot.
Exactly. And I think to kind of go back to the NFL football analogy, you could get, 4 or 5 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and just you isolate 1 week, one could just have an absolutely stellar game, throws 7 touchdowns, throws for 500 yards. But the very next week, the very next game, he could only throw 2 touchdowns, may only pass for 150 yards, and quarterback number 2 could get up there in that stellar range. So you have to look at it overall. I guess the analogy of a whole football season. You could have quarterbacks leapfrogging each other game after game, but when you get to the end of the season, they're all great quarterbacks. So you're right. They all are super hots, and I happen to think that once you get up to a certain heat level, you really can't taste the difference in the heat.
Well, you can't taste the difference in the heat, but let's use the football analogy again. What can affect the pepper's heat? The soil structure. The soil structure in the New Mexico trial field last year, one corner of the field was yielding some hotter peppers than the other corner. That's just a small field. It wasn't like they grew some in Las Cruces and the rest in Albuquerque and the rest in Santa Fe. You could say it's definitely different in those 3 areas. We're talking one corner of the field gave different results than the other corner of the field. So what is the difference in that soil structure right there? I mean, that would be a whole other study on just the soil. And when the sun goes down, does it hit part of a mountain and then that sun just touches that corner of the field a little longer than the other plants? Does that area get a little bit hotter in heat and stressed a little more? I mean, does the water drain faster in that corner of the field that's 10 by 10 yards, or does it drain slow? And let's look at football. Let's mix it into football now, okay? What depends on that quarterback being successful? Does his left tackle guard as good as the right tackle? Does his tight end miss his block or hit his block? You know, does his receiver get open? Is the wind at his back? You move any of those variables around and he has a bad game. You move him around the other way and he has a great game and 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think the same thing with the Chillies. And people have argued that let's just grow these chilies out in 6 or 7 different countries, and then that'll be a real test. Who's going to do the growing? I mean, the people who do the feeding and the watering in Indonesia might do it slightly different than the people in Hawaii, might do it slightly different than the people in Albuquerque. You know, unless you're going to have the same team fly from one location to the other, back and forth, you can't do a test where you're growing all over. You grow all the peppers in one field under the closest conditions possible, which is the same soil, same climate, same watering, same nutrients. There'll still be variables there, but at least you've got them all in the same laboratory setting as close as possible. You can't compare the plant being grown in Australia to the one in Indonesia to the one in Albuquerque in the same year, because the weather in Australia will be different than Indonesia, and Indonesia will be different than Albuquerque. So that's utter nonsense for people to say, let's grow them out in all different parts of the years and then let's test them. You're going to have the same scientific team observe all of them and do the same thing all the same way? No, it's not going to happen. What people don't get is that studies like this cost a ton of money, and you need to have a reason to spend that money when you're in a university. And usually that reason has got to be a little bit more than just getting an answer. Now, New Mexico State University did not want to do another super hot study, but decided it would be bring more attention to the university. I'm guessing this now. This wasn't told me. And it also, some of the people who are members are sauce makers and contribute. Now, the people who grow green chilies, jalapenos, and cayenne, those are the people who do a lot of projects and funding with the university. These are the people who grow thousands of acres of peppers. They have huge companies. They don't want a super hot study because they want to know how to kill this bug that wipes out their field or this virus that makes their peppers die, because it's whole industry that's at stake here. So you're not going to see a super hot study every year because the people who fund the programs need studies to survive their chili agriculture in the United States of America or other countries. Other countries want studies done too. You know, unless some pharmaceutical firm comes up and says, we can make this new $1 million drug, we think we can find out how to make it out of super hots. Then the money would pour in, and then you'd be all kinds of studies on super hots because the pharmaceutical company would be looking at a prize at the end if their studies prove something. Other than that, just to prove it so me and you can win an argument on Facebook of what's the hottest, they're not going to do it for that. It's ridiculous.
We're going to take a little break right now, but we'll return to the second half of this interview right after these messages.
I'm Mike Wilkerson from the Dexstar Podcast, reviewing each and every episode of the hit Showtime program, Dexter. Be sure to check out the Black Tribbles podcast, Too Cool to Be Geeks, Too Cute to Be Nerds, on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
Travel. It's what everyone wants more of in their life. But wow, where do you start?
So many options, so many destinations, and finding the time in one's own schedule. You might think that all is lost, but there's hope on the horizon.
Tune into the Travel Planners Podcast with us, Sue and Kevin McCarthy, to learn about how best to travel, what cities to visit, and catch a glimpse of the variety of ways to make the most of your travel dollars.
From shopping for bargains in London's Portobello Antique Market,
watching monkeys groom each other as you sit on the balcony of your hotel in Malaysia,
sipping rum cocktails while enjoying the sunset over Bloody Bay in Jamaica,
staying up all night to observe St. Petersburg, Russia's White Nights Festival,
hiking the Great Wall of China,
enjoying the grandeur of the Grand Canyon, or enjoying an unbelievably first-class journey on the Cruise on Rails, the Grand Lux Express.
It's all available now on the Travel Planner Podcast with Kevin and Sue McCarthy on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network, www.twoguystalking.com.
That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Did you get my underwear and stuff packed in the last bag?
I thought you did.
No, I didn't. Okay, be sure to check us out, the Travel Planners Podcast, on twoguystalking.com.
You're listening to a podcast appearing on the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
And we are back, and here's the second half of the interview. Kind of shifting gears here, I know that you have done a lot of promotion, having reviewers eat your chili peppers on videos. And of course, chili heads around the world know the whole macho aspect of eating the hottest thing. Can you do it? Can you eat the hottest wing? Can you eat the hottest hot sauce? The hottest chili pepper. Right now, there are a flood of videos on YouTube with people eating the hottest chili peppers. What do you think about this trend? Do you think it will last very long? Do you think it kind of distracts people from recognizing that chili peppers are, in fact, food and not, I guess, things you perform stunts with? What are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are this. A lot of these people this year, I'm going to say this year. Last year there wasn't as many. I'm going to say 2012 because I follow all the blogs and all the chili groups on Facebook and stuff. Now all of a sudden we have a lot more of these chili eating champions coming out. And I think the main reason we have this is, again, let's go back to what we were talking about with these people trying to make their own pepper varieties. People want attention. They want to get a name for themselves. They want to have that little bit of celebrity status. And can you blame them? You can only do that nowadays with YouTube and the internet. A few years ago, you couldn't do it. Now, you can become known all over the world with social media. And YouTube is social media. So these people are doing this. Now, those of us who have been chili heads for a little bit longer and have been friends with people in the industry like you are and I am, we're friends with people who manufacture products and sauces. We used to watch the old Neil Smith in Australia eating the hot chilies. That was like him and a few crazy daredevils, but mainly him. He's like the grandfather of them all and probably the most respected of them all. But traffic to Neil Smith's videos, even though he still does them occasionally, has slowed down because people have gotten tired of seeing Neil eat hot stuff over and over again. He says the same things. He has the same reactions. There's not much of change in the humor or anything, and it's kind of like, another Neil video. So now you have some new guys doing it, and they're becoming a little bit more comedy, playing characters. They're being entertaining. And I think some of those videos are funny. I don't want to watch every single one. But now you have all the upstarts going like, hey, I want to do that too. So now you have the guys that, hey, I want to do that too. They want to get seen. They want a name for myself. Oh, look at me. Hey, send me your peppers, and I'll eat them for you on YouTube. I get emails all the time. Hey, if you send me your peppers, I'll eat them for YouTube. Now, last year, I sent my peppers to about 3 or 4 people, and you were one of them, to eat them. And that was to get exposure for my business. Hands down, get exposure for my business on YouTube. YouTube's a marketing tool. But now I've got 2 people eating my chilies, Ted Barris and Brad Bishop. And they are eating all of my chilies, not just the crazy super hots. They're going to eat golden cayenne, purple jalapeno. I want these guys to give an informative video of what the pepper is, a little bit about it, and then an informative video about the heat and the flavor. So they're actually reviewing my peppers. It's not a stunt video of, let me see if I can handle the yellow moruga. I mean, it's still going to be painful, some of the peppers, because they are in the super hot range, but I want people to see about the pepper. I want to know about all my peppers, my ahis, everything. So Brad and Ted are going to do every pepper I grow this year, which is about 50 varieties, if they all produce. I don't know if they'll all produce, but they're going to do every variety. This also helps my business get exposure. Like it or not, it does. But I also want my customers, because they're all going on my website, to know about each pepper. Now, the other thing that I'm doing is I've contacted some of, I think, and this is just, again, my opinion, I think some of the best chili head chefs and cooks in America. Most of them make great sauces. In my opinion, I think their sauces are great. But they also have a flair in the kitchen, creativity. Some of them have entered into video contests on some blogs and websites. You're familiar with some of them. So I've contacted all of them about 6 months ago, and I said, who wants to be involved? And I said, here's the plan. I am going to send you almost every chili I grow.
Yeah.
Tell me how many videos you can do. If you say I only can do 3 or 4 videos, great. If you say, send me every chili as soon as they're ready, I'll send you every chili. And then they are going to do cooking videos with chilies to show the world, the American public, the American foodies, who are the people who are into cooking, how to use these chili peppers instead of just salsa and hot sauce. Because everybody thinks hot peppers, salsa, hot sauce. They don't think they could do a salmon with the chili peppers, or they could do stuffed crab cake, or corn chowder like Mike Holtquist just did. And now these cooks or chefs, in my opinion, they're chefs. Maybe they didn't all graduate from culinary school. But now we're going to get video instruction and recipes out on the web. The goal is to have over 100 videos up by end of November. And I'm working on that diligently with these cooks. We've got some of the best. I think these are some of the best. We've got Chris Bintz of Wicked Cactus.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Mike Holquist of Jalapeno Madness and Chili Pepper Madness. We've got Johnny McLaughlin of Heartbreaking Dawns, who was on the TV show Chopped.
Nice.
We've got Chad Locock said he's going to do a few videos of Ray City Sauce Works. And we've got Steve Zielinski of Crazy Steve's Pickles, who's an excellent cook and excellent at making cooking videos. And we're trying to get, but they're a little busy right now, Sean Ajelski of Pat's Barbecue Sauces and Marinades. Pat's, they just opened up a hot sauce shop in Riverside, California, so they're a little busy at the moment, so they're not taking any Chilies to do any videos, but she's agreed to do some, so maybe it'll be closer to November when she does some. There's also one or two chefs in L.A. that aren't really chili heads, known in the chili head community, that I've had discussions with, and they may do a few videos. And the great thing about this, Scott, is I have a vision, and the vision is the foodie people, which is all aspects of food, which includes food, just people who love cooking and eating,
mm-hmm.
barbecuers, chefs, food writers, food journalists, food bloggers, food critics, food celebrities.
Yeah.
The chili head community is only a small niche in the foodie community. And what I want to try to do is I want to try to show the mainstream foodie community that the chili head community is not just a bunch of idiots that eat hot stuff, that the chili head community are involved in the culinary arts, that they do appreciate good quality food, not just a taco with hot sauce, that they are educated, that they are creative. And the way I want to do this is get over 100 of these videos up, stream them over to all these other foodie people. Now, I've got some high-profile food writers. Some are in Los Angeles, and some are just on Facebook from all over the country. They've accepted some of these videos already. They're already on their page. As soon as a video comes up, I spend hours putting it on the pages of these food people that will accept it. Some people say, don't put anything on my page, please. I won't do that. But some people that say, hey, thank you for that video, and they share it with their food people. So just think of over 100 cooking videos with rare and exotic chilies, some of them super hot, by some of the best chili head cooks, being streamed out to the mainstream foodie network of people all over the country and a few people all over the world. And just think, I'm not saying it's going to change the world, but it's going to have a little bit of an impact. Some of these people are going to cook with these recipes. Some of these people are going to start talking about Heartbreaking Dawns and Ray City Sauce Works. Some of these people will join chili heads in the future just to get involved in chili heads. Some of these people, these videos are going to expose people to the right people, and who knows, maybe we get Johnny or somebody on another show. Maybe we get a chili head cooking show that's better quality and has better recognition than Heat Seekers. I don't know what's going to happen, Scott. All I know is I have a vision for this. I've got the chilies, and the cooks have agreed to do the videos, and I'm just going for a ride the next 90 days, and we'll get these videos up as fast as we can and shoot them out to the people and get as much exposure for them as we can on the blogs and on Facebook and Twitter and everything. And let's see what happens. Maybe we get some more respect for the chili head community. That's what I hope for. So I'm not just all about making money. I'm all about community and us guys getting more attention to these people, these great chili heads that really know what they're doing with food.
Very exciting prospect. Yeah, all the guys you mentioned, the friends with them, I know that they're top-notch, chefs or cooks, however you want to say it. And, yeah, I've been having the same attitude all along. And, I'm talking to one of our mutual friends, a chili head reviewer, Ryan Grob. It's like chili peppers are food. And it'd be great if somebody or a bunch of somebodies could just show people, it's like, this is stuff you can cook with them. Chili peppers, even if they're super hot, they all have distinct flavor profiles. And it just, what you're doing, I think, is just a grand slam idea. And I can't wait to see where it ends up. And, of course, that I'll promote it all I can.
Now, I can't take all the credit for this because the reason this brainchild happened is last year, towards the end of the year, I wanted some more videos of people eating chilies. I sent a couple of chilies to Johnny. I sent a bunch to Ryan. About halfway through the chilies, Ryan said, you know what, this is beating me up. I don't know if I can eat all these chilies. What if I cook with them? He said, I was talking with Johnny, and we're thinking we should do some cooking with these chilies instead of just eating them. Everybody just eats them.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, okay. What else was I going to say? You must finish all the chilies and suffer, Ryan? No. I thought, you've got something there. You and Johnny had a little conversation, and him and Johnny McLaughlin had a little conversation last year, and that little conversation planted a seed in my mind of let's do this big, and let's get these chili head cooks recognition. Let's get their products recognition because they're going to talk about who they are every time they do the video, and let's get the chili head community respected And heck, at the same time, we're going to get 100 and something darn recipes that we never had before, probably, with these chilies. That's, I never grew Trinidad perfume till this year. It's got the flavor of a super hot, but it doesn't have any heat, and it's nice. It's a nice chili. And I've always been about growing hot chilies, but this Trinidad perfume, it's delicious. And there's another one called the Trinidad Pimento, also called the Trinidad Seasoning Pepper. Oh, my God, that pepper is delicious. That's like the most popular cooking pepper in Trinidad and Tobago. It's the most popular. And they're not ripe yet. I tasted one green the other day, and it has got such a flavor, Scott. I would buy a hot sauce. Well, it wouldn't be a hot sauce. It would be a mild sauce unless you added something else to it. I would buy a sauce with this pepper in it, hands down, and pour it all over my food like ketchup. And now we're going to get some of these guys cooking with it. And so I'm excited. It's not just about heat. You're right. It's about flavor. And when we start cooking with these peppers, people are going to want to get these peppers, which, I'm not a fool. It's going to grow my business because people are going to be searching for the plants and seeds of these so they can grow them and so they can cook with them, But I think just, the emails I get from people saying, that's a great video, I'm going to make that recipe, that puts a little bit of joy in my heart that someone, it's not that I'll be sowing seeds down the road, that somebody liked that recipe with one of my peppers, and now they're going to try to get those peppers and they're going to cook it for their family and enjoy it, and it's fun. Like I said, it's a fun ride, and next year, I might grow another 20 new varieties just to do more cooking videos. I might not grow them to sell, but I might just grow them just to get the peppers in the hands of these guys and continue on doing cooking videos because there's hundreds of peppers. We could do this thing for a long time,
Indefinitely. I mean, I'm not speaking for you. I could see something like this going on and on, maybe at a slower pace, but, it just, to see just people open up, and I guess the majority of the Western world have kind of opened up to chili peppers. I mean, 20 years ago, would you expect the average person to eat something with chipotle? Well, now it's not really so much a hot chili pepper. It's a flavor, So maybe in another 20 years, people will be looking at habaneros, not so much as a chili pepper, but just another flavor.
Right.
I guess as their heat tolerance builds up. To me, this is just slowly opening up that door, laying the foundation for something really, really big.
Right.
And kind of funny how we kind of both mentioned Ryan and the ideas that we've had, but it's a great project. I think that you're initiating here. I guess I can kind of segue into asking you, what are your favorite chili peppers to eat and cook with?
Well, if I want heat, my favorites are the Trinidad 7-Pot. I like the yellow 7-Pot, the chocolate 7-Pot, any one of the reds, if I'm going to go for heat. If I make a homemade salsa or I'm going to, make a pot of stew or something and I want to kick up the heat and flavor it, I'll use those peppers. As far as eating with chili peppers, to be honest with you, I'm lazy. There are so many good sauce makers out there. I'm not talking about the big shots. There are so many good sauce makers out there that, like Cajuns and Heartbreaking Dawns and Wicked Cactus and High River sauces. I could go on the list of them. Man, it's just so easy to make a basic dish and then just use one of their sauces to flavor it instead of me making something to flavor a dish. So I got lazy now. Even my friends are going, when are you going to make some salsa? And I go, well, I haven't made any salsa in a few months. Why not? Because I got a cabinet full of hot sauce, and they're good, and I like it.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
So I found myself being lazy, but these milder varieties that have flavor, I'm going to grow more of them, like the Golden Cayenne, the Pimento de Padron, Trinidad Perfume, and Trinidad Pimento. These are peppers I could cook for my church group in a dish. They have very little heat. It wouldn't even be called a mild heat. It'd probably be mild, minus mild. And just tasting a few off the vine now, because I've never grown them before. It's the first year growing them. They may become my favorite cooking peppers, other than like the Trinidad. If I want to eat, it's Trinidad 7-Pot. Red, yellow, or brown. But if I don't want heat, I think I'm going to start gravitating towards some of these other peppers that I can cook up, and my son and me will be able to eat it. We won't have steam coming out of our nose. So, I think it's going to change. The other ones I'm liking now, too, are the ahis. I never grew too many of the ahis. They're the peppers from Peru, Ecuador, around that area. And they don't have that high of a heat. They're lower than a habanero heat. They've got nice citrusy flavors, smoky flavors. I'm growing 6 varieties of ahis this year that I never grew before, and I'm anxious to pull them off the vine and see what they do in the dishes. And, that's 6 ahis that we're going to see these chili head chefs cook with, too. So I'm excited about that. I want to watch and see what they do with the ahis and these other peppers, Scott. To be honest with you, I want to see what they do with it. And if that damn video makes me hungry, then you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to cook. I'm going to make the same dish they made with that pepper. It'll come right off the plant into my kitchen in the same day. You can't beat that for freshness. That's why it's rewarding to be a grower, even a small grower. Growing your own garden is rewarding because it comes right off the plant and into your kitchen same day. You cannot get fresher than that.
Oh, yeah, and it goes for any type of gardener, too, not just chili pepper. You know, people who grow vegetables and fresh herbs and everything like that. Mm-hmm. It just, I personally don't have time and room and all that kind of stuff to do all that, but if I would absolutely do that. Grow everything myself, just have the freshest ingredients every day, and just, but yeah, to have access to the chili peppers like that, it just, I think for people who do have the time, it's something they definitely should look into. And of course, you are one of the people that I refer to right off the bat, you know, well, where can I buy chili peppers? You know, where can I buy the super hots? Well, it's Refining Fire Chillies. I don't think it's been a dull moment. You've given us so much to think about, especially all the super hot talk. It's just, of course, in the whole chili pepper world, it's always a big buzz. I want to thank you for talking with me tonight. Any last minute things you want to plug?
Nope. If you want to check out my website, go to www.superhotchilies.com, and that's CHILES.com. And if you want to know about the youth centers I support with a lot of my money, go to YV Centers. That's Y, V like victory, centers.com, and check out the kids on there and watch the little few-minute video about them, and your heart will be tugged. That's what I support, as well as some needy families here in San Diego. Sometimes the family's in a jam, and I end up being able to step in and help somebody, and I couldn't do that if I didn't sell the chilies and the seeds and the plants. If I didn't sell that, I wouldn't be able to help others. And there's no greater thing than helping others. I mean, I don't own anything really expensive myself, because the way I look at it, it's not my money, it's God's money. I give it away, and He just brings more in for me to give away again. So just got to give thanks to God that I have this business and I'm able to bless and help other people. I just wish I would have done it 10 years earlier.
Well, excellent. And, of course, I'll put up the links in the show notes for everyone to click on. So, Jim Duffy, again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure talking to you, Scott. You take care of yourself.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
And if you're interested in learning more about Jim Duffy or some of the seeds and chili pepper plants that he sells, you can go to either refiningfirechilies.com or superhotchilies.com. And as always, I will put the link in the show notes. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode of the Weekly Firecast. Follow me at facebook.com/ScottRobertsWeb. Please like my page there. Or you can follow me at twitter.com/ScottRoberts. And I'd love to hear from all of you. Any feedback, positive, negative, constructive, let me know what you think of the show. And if you love the show, please spread the word, tell others about it, and urge them to subscribe. So until next time, remember, keep it burning.
This has been the Weekly Firecast. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast via iTunes or at the official website at scottrobertsweb.com/Weekly Firecast. The Weekly Firecast is part of the Two Guys Talking podcast network. For more information on other great Two Guys Talking programming, you can go to twoguystalking.com. That's the number 2, guystalking.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, keep it burning.